Hello, and thank you for watching this Corn Belt Regional Forecast. I'm Andrew Pritchard, meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, the big story over the last 24 hours across the Corn Belt, a lot of cold air and some snow across parts of the central and eastern Corn Belt. I was out shooting some video here just outside of Champaign-Urbana in east central Illinois, where our office is located here. And again, some autumn-like scenes here. We still got some leaves on the trees here across central Illinois. So a clash of the seasons here, a little mix of fall and winter. Again, we only saw a few inches of accumulation here, 2.5 inches here in Champaign-Urbana. But it was the winds here, a north wind, 20 to 30 miles per hour, gusting higher at times, that really created some visibility issues and really made it feel like the dead of winter out there. Again, measurement from my backyard here in Champaign-Urbana, 2.5 inches. A lot of 2 and 3 inch reports here across central Illinois. Regionally, I think 3 to 5 inches was about the highest you'd find as you head off toward parts of northern Illinois, getting into northern Indiana and parts of Michigan. As we take a look at the current snow depth, this map as of about midnight last night. Again, this being the corridor from the most recent event. We did have some snowfall here over the last week or so, and then some just light snow across parts of the high plains. So really getting a pretty good southward extent with the snow here, anywhere from Montana southward into parts of Kansas, Missouri, even Kentucky and Tennessee, getting in on some of the snow. And then we'll see the snow continue to be heavy across parts of the northeast region as we head through today. Now, where we have the fresh snow, temperatures were able to plummet. Of course, a big area of an Arctic high sitting over the Midwest, temperatures dropping into the single digits, even below zero in some areas here across parts of eastern Illinois, or I should say eastern Iowa, northwestern Illinois, into northern Minnesota. A couple isolated spots dropping below zero. Now, as we look at the 24-hour temperature change across the U.S., a really dramatic showing where across parts of the southern plains into the Ohio River Valley, where we're seeing those purple colors, we're talking about temperatures 30 to 40 degrees colder than they were just 24 hours ago. Across parts of the southeast, warmer than it was 24 hours ago, and that's because we've got warm air advection in advance of this frontal boundary. So you can see the system at work here with the warm air feeding in advance, the very strong cold front plunging to the south, bringing this cold air all the way to the Gulf Coast, essentially all the way anywhere along and east of the Rocky Mountains here, experiencing cooler than average temperatures as we head through the next couple of days. So we're in it now. We've been talking about it for the last few days, over the last week or so. The extreme cold that was headed for the Corn Belt, we're in it now. So where are we headed? As we look at the temperature trends over the next 5 days, again, dealing with the core of the coldest air here over the next 24 to 48 hours, we will start to transition slowly from a pattern here that's featured this big ridge in the Gulf of Alaska, a big diving trough, something like that. Again, we force a lot of warm air northward. You see a lot of comparisons this time of year, or when we see extreme cold in the Midwest, that we'll often compare the temperature at your location with the temperature in Anchorage, Alaska, and say, wow, it's warmer in Anchorage, Alaska today than it is in, Champaign, Illinois, for example. But that really makes sense. If you think about it, to get some extreme cold in the Midwest, we really need a pattern like this, where we shove a lot of warm air northward in the Gulf of Alaska, across Alaska. That displaces a lot of cold air north from the Arctic into the Midwest. So that's what we're dealing with right now, the map on the left. If we talk about where we're headed, it's a slow breakdown of the log jam we've seen across the Pacific, and that's going to allow the ridge to slowly move to the east a little bit, but kind of flatten out across the Midwest. And that allows not a rapid warm up, but starting to get some of this warmer air to nudge towards the east and to the north. Again, allowing a slow warm up at the very least across parts of the central and eastern Corn Belt. A little more opportunity for warming as we head towards the high plains, parts of the western sections of the Corn Belt. Now, as we talk about precipitation over the next 10 days, really, it's a dry pattern. We're dealing with this very cold, dry Arctic air mass. We have an opportunity for a quick moving system to sneak through here Wednesday, delivering some very light snow to this region. And then we've also got a slow moving low along the Gulf that's going to bring some rain to this region here. So across much of the Corn Belt, especially from parts of Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, into Indiana. Really a dry next 10 days. As you look toward the north, the opportunity for a very, very light coating of snow, talking about an inch or two. And then you head off to the south, talking about some soaking rains across parts of the southeast. So again, maybe I'll just redraw it here on the map below. Really looking at a mostly dry week across the south and western portions of the Corn Belt. Some very light snow across this region, and then some rain as you head off towards the east. That's what we're looking at as far as precipitation goes over the next 10 days, and it's really not much across the Corn Belt, and that's good. It's been fairly active as we look at the last 7 days of precipitation, and again, the same pattern is kind of evident, where we had several quick-moving systems bring some light snow through this corridor, along the Gulf Coast into parts of the Mid-South, seeing some of that Gulf moisture try to lift northward, but really being cut off by the dry Arctic air mass. So seeing some heavier precipitation, some heavier rain in this corridor from the south into the Ohio River Valley. The opportunities for some quick-hitting snow across this region really illustrates the pattern over the last 7 days, really. And again, it's not changing much other than maybe taking this precipitation across the Gulf Coast, shifting it off to the south and to the east over the next 5 to 10 days, with that quick moving opportunity for some snow in from the high plains into the Great Lakes. So where we're at right now as far as the satellite picture goes, we can pick out the frontal boundary. This is the front right now, the Arctic front that's bringing some rain to parts of the Gulf Coast, brought the snow to the Corn Belt, and is bringing snow to the northeast right now. You can see the overall flow pattern again, strong northwesterly flow in the jet stream racing across the Central Plains and the Corn Belt. What you're seeing here, the purple coloring that isn't moving here when we load the satellite picture, is the very cold snow-covered ground from Kansas into Nebraska, northern Missouri, Iowa, the northern two-thirds of Illinois. So you're seeing the very cold ground temperatures there with that fresh snowpack. As you look at the radar, not much going on as we quiet down on the backside of that storm system. High pressure taking hold across the central part of the country, but take the clockwise flow around that, bring it over the top of the still melted, still relatively warm Great Lakes, and we do have some lake effect snow happening right now across the Great Lakes, and we can zoom in on one especially prolific band here in the Corn Belt. This would be looking at the northern Indiana radar, so parts of northern Indiana right here. This would be Michigan and then Ohio over here. Taking the drawings off though, watching the strong northwesterly winds coming over the top of the relatively warm waters. Here's Lake Michigan. So this is where the water is relatively warm compared to the Arctic air that's blowing over the top of that, condensing then in the form of this band of convection, and then squeezing the moisture out there, the deep moisture that's being lifted off of the lake. You get these very, very narrow, very intense bands of snow. And how narrow am I talking about? Well, I kind of drew a line across one of the more representative swaths here, and we're talking about a band of intense snowfall here. It's about 5 to 6 miles wide. So imagine you got a 20-mile drive from town A to town B there. And on one end, you've got beautiful sunny skies, and then for about 5 minutes, you've just got about the heaviest snow you can imagine, and then you pop right out on the other side after that 5-minute commute. You got the sun shining again. So the lake effect snow, really an incredible experience, and if you're a snow lover, then it's about as good as it gets, because you get some of the highest snowfall rates you can find from some of these lake effect snow bands. So one more time, checking in on the temperatures. Again, high pressure situated here. The cold air coming over the top of the lakes here, producing some lake effect snow, but everywhere else just really dealing with some cold and with some strong north winds on the backside of that front, still dealing with wind chills anywhere from 0 to 15 degrees below zero across parts of the central and eastern Corn Belt. So where are we headed then? I mentioned a subtle pattern change at the very least, dealing with this big ridge right now, the large trough across the central and eastern U.S., bringing in the very cold temperatures to the Corn Belt. So taking this into early next week, watching again that slow transition, finally getting things moving. This trough begins to swing off to the north and to the east. This ridge begins to slowly migrate eastward, and that's what we've got as we head into late week and then into the weekend. Here we see the migration finally happening. This is the trough that's bringing the rain to the Great Lakes. If I step it back just a hair, this is the trough that brings the very light snow to parts of the high plains and the Great Lakes. So there are the two precipitation makers, And then as we head into the weekend and into next week, here is the temperature change where we kind of shake that big trough and get flatter flow across the central and eastern Corn Belt, with that ridge not necessarily shifting eastward, but kind of getting the flow moving and at least allowing the air mass to change up across the region. As it is right now, we've got temperatures anywhere from 20 to 30 degrees colder than average, all the way from Texas to the upper Midwest. And the good news is, we've been talking about the cold, and we're in the core of the coldest air right now. We'll be dealing with that over the next 24 to 48 hours, but you can only go up from here at this point, although I have to be careful saying that in November because we do have all of winter to go through. But as we talk about this particular cold outbreak, the only way to go is up at this point. Now, it's a slow up, especially in this area here, kind of along and east of that line. If you're in parts of Wisconsin, Illinois, Missouri, getting into Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee, the warm-up is slow in this region. Still dealing with temperatures anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees cooler than average as we head into the weekend. So cold temperatures really for the week as we talk about the eastern Corn Belt, central and eastern Corn Belt, warming up as we get to the end of the week across parts of the high plains, the Dakotas into Nebraska and Kansas, parts of Minnesota. It's as we get into next week, Monday and Tuesday, perhaps starting to bring some of that warmer air eastward into the central and eastern Corn Belt. But again, not a rapid warm up and not shooting to a warmer than average pattern by any means, just simply trying to crawl back to where we should be this time of year. And it looks like we'll take all of the next 7 to 10 days to do it. But that is where we are headed, at least in the short term. So we take a look at precipitation then. I know this video is running long. We will quickly move through the Wednesday system that brings some light snow just through this region here, and then otherwise quiet across the Corn Belt as we take a look at the total accumulated snow here. Again, relatively light, just talking about an inch or two across parts of primarily the eastern Dakotas into Minnesota, northern Iowa, and Wisconsin for that quick hitting round of Wednesday snow. Taking a further look then using the European model, just bringing it back, here comes the Wednesday system, quickly swings through. Also keep your eye on the slow moving Gulf low here. So we're into Wednesday now, watching the snow move through the upper Great Lakes, perhaps lingering into Wednesday night, ending in parts of Michigan on Thursday morning. Then Thursday through Friday, we start to watch that low, bringing precipitation to the southeast, not impacting the Corn Belt here. Taking the drawings off, we're now into Saturday, and then taking it to the end of the weekend here on Sunday, keeping things dry across the Corn Belt. So once again, it is this corridor here, just expecting some very light snow as we move through Wednesday and Thursday. Total liquid precipitation then, again, light snow through this corridor, some more heavy rain across parts of the south and the southeast. Otherwise, across the Corn Belt, looking at a dry next 5 days. Looking at the snow accumulation forecast from the European model once again. Again, only watching this corridor here. I keep switching between green and blue. That corridor for the Wednesday snow. This, of course, is what has fallen here on Monday night into early Tuesday morning. Otherwise, really, we just got to deal with the cold here for this week because precipitation does overall come to an end across the region as we finish out the work week. High temperatures then for the next 5 days. Bitterly cold across the eastern Corn Belt into the Great Lakes and upper Midwest. Temperatures topping out in the upper teens for many across Minnesota, Wisconsin, getting into Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana. We do start to warm up slowly. Again, it is a slow warm up, but at least we're headed in the right direction from today. High temperatures tomorrow, below freezing where you see the blue cutoff here. This would be Wednesday afternoon. High temperatures Thursday, taking a while to warm up here where we've got a thicker snowpack on the ground. Friday, high temperatures. And then Saturday, finally getting 30s and 40s into the region here where we are in the single digits today. Low temperatures then for the next few days. Again, very cold this morning. Tomorrow morning, not going to be much better, especially in the Great Lakes and Eastern Corn Belt. On Thursday morning, lows then on Friday morning. And then here are the low temperatures on Saturday. So dealing with below freezing low temperatures across the entire Corn Belt for the next 5 days, starting to thaw out and warm up first toward the west as we head into the weekend and early next week. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Thursday morning ag forecast video. We'll have our long-range U.S.-focused weather analysis video on Wednesday morning, and then I will be back to talk about the Corn Belt on Friday. Have a great day.